there, and welcome to the Step Stories podcast. I'm your host, Robin Bruner, and this week we have a lovely woman named Kristen Skiles, who's here from Dallas, whose sphere reaches out to over 20,000 stepmothers. That is incredible. Hi, Kristen.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here. Kristen is known as a step-parent coach, a stepmom coach, and you are the founder of stepmomming.com and host of the podcast called Stepmomming Made Easy and the recent author of the book Stepmomming Made Easy, Strategies, Tools, and Everything Else You Need to Know. That's a lot.
It is. It is a lot. And
You
I
created a...
also,
Go ahead, sorry.
I forgot to include in my bio that I'm also the founder of Stepmom Con. So there's a lot going on to support
Oh,
stepmoms over here.
Oh yeah, we're going to talk about all of it. I'm so impressed with everything you've created and how many people you've helped, and I know that this is your passion, that you're passionate about guiding stepmoms and validating them and empowering them, and I think do you reach all over the world, or is it mostly in the United States?
I do. I have coached stepmoms all over the world. Our website reaches all the corners of the earth, and it's tremendous to see because there's not just stepmoms here in the US who need support. So I'm really glad that we can reach others in other countries.
Of course, I like, how long ago did you start all of this? Because to reach over 20,000 just from you starting this, I'm so impressed, and I would love to know how you did that.
It's a really funny story. So October of 2016, the website started not by me, by my stepdaughter's mom. She started the website as a blog for moms who were working from home, basically. And she started it and tried really hard to get it off the ground. And we ended up building sort of a friendship through it where she was like, I don't know, how do I build a blog? And I didn't know anything about websites, blogs. I thought it was like an online journal, but I had just finished my MBA. I was like, well, I know business. So I ended up joining the business, operating it alongside her for about 10 months. Throughout that process, we built it into a resource for moms and stepmoms. Ultimately, she left to pursue other passions, but through that journey, I found the stepmoms of the internet who were craving resources. And in January of 2018 is when I rebranded to Stepmomming. So this did not all happen overnight, I promise.
Of course not. It takes a lot of work to build something like that. And I think I was involuntarily shaking my head a little bit because I was thinking to myself, how did you do this with your ex's? I mean, with your husband's ex-wife, and you'll have to back up and talk about you and you're married, you have a stepdaughter and a baby son, and I want to hear more about that and how this all came to be.
It's a wild ride. How much time do we have?
We have time. We have time.
So I met my husband many moons ago now, back in 2014, I guess. And I had a rule not to date any single dads. I'd had a bad experience in the past, and I was like, nope, not cut out for it. And he was everything I wanted him to be and happened to be packaged with this super cute little 4-year-old girl. And I was like, all right, how hard can it be? Right? Like, broke my own rule because he was worth breaking all the rules for.
Oh,
So we dated, got married in 2017. That cute little 4-year-old is now 16 years old. And we have 2 of our own after a long fertility journey. My oldest son is 2 and my youngest son is 7 months.
oh
So
gosh.
we're in a whole new stage of stepmotherhood and blended family over here. And yeah, the ex, that's a whole nother part, another layer to our story. Things were very high conflict for a while, but we ultimately worked through it. They worked through it. I took a little bit longer to work through my feelings of protection against my husband and wanting to protect him from anything. But we did. We worked through it. We became friends. We became best friends, in fact. And throughout the journey of us building this business together. They actually lived with us for 3 months. She, her new husband, their daughter together, and of course, my stepdaughter was with us full time. And I'm really glad those 3 months were only 3 months because that was very challenging, but it's a fun little part of our story you don't hear often.
No, you definitely do. So let's back up. Was this all in Dallas?
Yes.
Okay. Are you from there originally?
I'm from Houston. I went to school out in
Okay.
California, stayed out
Okay.
there, and then moved to Dallas because my sister had a baby here.
Oh, okay. So you didn't know any of these people until you met your husband. And
Correct.
then, you might have said it, I might have missed it. Back up a second. How long into the marriage did the ex-wife and her husband move in with you? And why did they do that?
6 months after we were married, they
Oh
moved in
my
with us.
gosh.
I know, I know. It was delusional maybe to think that that could be fine. Looking back, I would have done things a lot differently. I would have set some boundaries. I will always tell my clients, do as I say, not as I did. But yes, so 6 months after they moved in with us, they were trying to save money for a down payment, trying to just repair some things on their end so that they could move into a house. They'd been in an apartment. Having their second daughter, they really wanted to have more room for the girls. And their only other option was to live with his brother, who was over an hour away. That was going to be a really long commute for my stepdaughter to school. And because we all got along so fine, it was like, well, sure, we just moved into a new house. There's extra bedroom. Y'all can stay here. Totally not a big deal. 3 to 6 months. When we got like 4 weeks into it, I looked at my husband. I was like, I need that to be 3 months. I need that to not be the 2 6 months. I need that to be the 3 months. And he's like, all right, I'll communicate it. And there were highs, but there were obviously lows. And I'm an introvert. I need my space. That was an issue. There was the regular roommate stuff, like who's got stuff in the fridge, who's leaving dishes in the sink. And then there's, of course, the other layer of my husband's ex-wife is making dinner in the kitchen that she wants us to have family night. And like she used to make him dinner when she was
In
his
that same
wife.
kitchen? Was
No,
it the
no, no,
same
no, thank
house?
goodness. No,
Okay.
no. This was a
Okay.
house we bought together after we got married, but it was still just it was weird. There was one time I walked through the house in her part of the house, like they took over the game room. She had hung a painting she had done. She's a fabulous artist. But in the corner, she had signed her name when she made it, and it was when she was married and had my last name on it, which is not
Uh-huh.
her last name. So there were just some things that were triggering that obviously I would not do again if given the opportunity. But, we learned from it and it's a cool story to tell, I guess.
It is a cool and crazy story, and I'm thinking about your stepdaughter. Was she in heaven having both her parents in the same house?
Yeah.
And then how the heck did that make you feel as the new wife and mother, quote unquote stepmother? I mean, how did you cope with that? And also, I'm curious. I forgot if you already said it. I'm sorry. It's morning. I'm not a good morning person. How long did you date before you got married, and how long was it before he introduced you to the stepdaughter?
We dated for nearly 3 years before we got married. We were engaged or nearly 3 years before this happened. We were together 2.5 years before we got married. This happened 6 months later. Um,
Oh,
I was dating him for a couple months before I met her. It wasn't too long, but we were seriously dating. From the beginning, I knew this wasn't somebody you casually date.
hmm.
Somebody who's a parent, that's not something that happens. So we were seriously dating, and it got to a point where I was like, "Listen, I'm falling pretty hard here, and I don't want to continue until I see you and know you as a father." He was ultimately comfortable with that, and I did get to know him as a father and loved him as a father just as much as I had loved him as a man. So that worked out well for us. As far as my stepdaughter when we were living together, of course she was in heaven. Our stepchildren, children of divorce, they go through life living between 2 homes, living between 2 parents, and now that we're on the other side of it, she struggles with, "Which house did I leave this in?" Or, "Did I tell this parent this story, or did I only tell the other parent that story?"
Mm,
It's packing up her skincare and her makeup every week, and we do our best to give her 2 sets of everything, but you can never fully accommodate for all of that.
mhm.
So, yeah, I mean, no kid wants to be away from one parent all the time, and she had 3 months where that wasn't the case
Yeah.
post-divorce.
Well, I can understand it from the child's perspective, but, so how was that for you being so newly married and then suddenly her mom's back and not only back, but living with you? I mean, how did you deal with that?
Not well. If I can be very honest, yeah, not well. It was probably the 3 hardest months of my life. It was it was a lot for me to work through, and frankly, at the time, I didn't have a very good way of coping, a very good way of processing, and I was just moody a lot of the time because I wasn't processing it, and home would have been the place that I processed, that I got refreshed, and now my home was no longer this refreshing place. So after they moved out, it was like an October to December Q4 situation. So after they moved out in end of December, beginning of January, whenever it was, then I felt like I had this renewal and being able to process and being able to enjoy being a newlywed again and all of those things. But I don't have any advice for how you would do that productively in the moment because I didn't do it. I mean, I guess I could say now what things I would do differently, but I did not do it well in the moment.
Of course not. Do you mind me asking how old you were at that time?
I would have been 27.
Okay, so you were still pretty young. And, did you take anything away from watching what's your stepdaughter's name?
Krista.
Krista. From watching that's interesting, Kristen.
Oh, yeah.
Watching, her interact with her mom, and I'm just wondering how that affected you once they left. Like, okay, now I'm the mom here. Do I create my own role or do I try to model what I saw her mother doing with her? Did you think of any of that?
I think that's such a great question because I spent so long ahead of this journey. So I had lived with them for over a year, and then we moved into a new house, and then they moved into the house with us. So I had already kind of gotten into a groove in my home with my husband and my stepdaughter. But what was so enlightening for me was that I had spent all this time trying to live up to the idea of Krista's mom in my home.
Mm.
You know, she's going to cook every day and she's going to make these elaborate meals and they're going to be so delicious and so healthy. And she's going to keep a clean home and she's going to do all the activities with the girls at the end of the night. And she's going to have all this energy and all this time and she's going to do it with a smile on her face. And that's not realistic, right? Like you and I can laugh about it now, but at the time I felt like I was living up to Mary Poppins and I needed to
Yeah.
do things as well for Krista and her home as I could. And I needed to live up to my husband's expectations of what a wife should be. And then I saw the real person. And it's not that she's sloppy and she's messy and she's a bad mom. That's not what it is. It's that she's real. And so that part of it was very good for me. There are other ways to learn that lesson. I don't advise living with them to learn that lesson,
No.
but it did help me in that way to give myself some grace to show up in my home the best way that I could instead of feeling like I had to be perfect or live up to something that I wasn't. And you had said, you know, being the mom of my home. And I think it's important to also share that I learned I'm not the mom of my home. Krista's mom is her mom 100% of the time. And while I may fill some of those traditionally female tasks and roles in my home, I gave myself freedom from having to try to be her mom in my home, which I was never going to be able to do. And letting go of that expectation actually helped all of us
Hmm.
tremendously.
Mm. Um, well, that yeah, you were thrown into the fire and learned immediately. I think that's it must have been so hard, but talking about it now and looking back on it, I can't imagine how many valuable things you learned. So, well, and I know you also have these 2 sons, you just or both sons? Oh,
Yes.
really close. So how is that going? Blending the family and, with your stepdaughter?
It's so interesting because when her mom had a baby after, so with her new husband, they had a baby and she was colicky and I told you they lived in a little apartment. And so Krista's hearing the cries and seeing how much attention her mom has to give this little baby.
Mhm.
And so Krista told us, I am so glad that I have an only child here.
Oh.
Don't ever have kids. This is great. Of course, it was for her, but I craved a child of my own. My husband wanted more kids. So we kept trying, and it did take us a while to conceive. But once we did, and we shared that with my stepdaughter, I expected her to be like, oh no. But in reality, she was so happy for us. I mean, she shed a couple
Oh,
tears. She gave us big hugs. And the way that she loves her brothers, it is my new favorite part of being a stepmom. They love her. They love her so much. And they just light up when they see her. She lights up when she sees them. And she's 16, right? So, like,
yeah.
realistically, she's spending a lot of time in her room or on her phone. But the times that she is engaging with them, it's just incredible, and I had no expectations, so the fact that it is so wonderful is just all the sweeter.
And to me, just listening to that, it feels like that's a testament to the stepmother you have been to her, that you have a nice relationship with her, a respectful relationship. I'm just gleaning this from the fact that she's acting this way and is so happy for you all. And I do think it's got to be a reflection of that. So good for you. And
Thank
and I want to just one of the things I didn't do because we got off on such an interesting conversation is say a little bit more about you and I do want to still go back to your history of your childhood, but I want to talk about the fact that are a writer too, and you've been featured in a lot of prestigious places on Today, the Atlantic, Newsweek, the Boston Globe, the Texas Today, and the one that I'm curious about, Scary Mommy. What the heck is Scary Mommy?
It's, like, just a pop culture, I guess, website, lots of different essays or articles. They even do some listicles, I think, just about moms in general. They have a very snarky social media page. That is like I wish I wouldn't have. I wish I wouldn't have submitted to Scary Mommy because, the comments, Robin, like, the comments about stepmoms, it was
Oh.
so hard, and I remember
Oh.
when I first got published that some of the other stepmoms I knew in the space, other coaches and writers, they were like, "Don't read the comments. Whatever you do, don't read the comments." And
Oh.
I didn't listen. But, you know, live to tell the tale. Is that just the story of my stepmom life?
I don't know, live to tell it. Well, that's what makes you such a good coach, I'm sure. And that is also I want to know how you evolved into coaching and created all these things but I do want to just touch on your background as a stepchild because I have to say having this podcast has been so enlightening for me personally because I grew up as a stepchild twice. My mother died when I was young. Everybody who listens to my podcast has heard me say this a million times now, and I had two back to back stepmothers and step families. And so for so long, my whole world has been seen through the eyes of a stepchild because I was a stepchild as a child and a teenager and a young adult. And I'm so enjoying hearing the perspective of stepmothers and seeing the other side of things, which has given me so much more grace toward my stepmothers and how hard it must have been. and I'm also seeing, okay, there are positive ways to be a stepmother and maybe not so positive ways. And I'm curious for yourself growing up, you had some of this, right?
I did. My parents divorced when I was 2, and my mom remarried when I was 6, and my dad has remarried 4 times. I had to do the math this morning preparing for this interview because I always forget. One didn't last the first one didn't last very long. They were divorced by the end of my 2nd grade year. That's a whole nother story. He met my 2nd stepmom that summer and married her in October. And she was my stepmom for nearly 10 years before she unfortunately lost her battle to cancer. And she is my role model for
Mm.
stepmotherhood. She really, truly is. She loved me so well and incorporated me into the family so well that I never felt the step prefix with her.
Mhm.
He married somebody else when I was in college, so I didn't really know her that well, but I thought she loved my brother and sister from that 10-year marriage, that 2nd stepmom. I thought she loved them well and showed up for them well. That marriage ultimately ended, and now he is married to someone else, who is very sweet and very kind, and we have as good of a relationship as you can have as adult stepchildren that you met when they were adults. So, respectful, kind, loving as much as it can be, but it's a whirlwind going through that. My stepdad and I did not have a good relationship growing up because I was such a daddy's girl, and my parents, looking back with the language I have now, were very high conflict, and there was a lot of alienating happening on both sides, and the way that they wanted me to talk poorly about the other parent when I was with
Mm.
them. My dad very much didn't want my mom dating anybody new or any other father figures in my life, and all created kind of a toxic thought for me toward my stepfather. And luckily, we have a very good relationship now. They have been married for many, many, many years and celebrating their 20th anniversary this year, I guess. I don't know. 30th? 30th anniversary, I guess, this year. So I'm really grateful for that. I am grateful for the lessons I learned through my father's remarriages and knowing what I want my stepdaughter to feel and what I don't want her to feel.
Mhm.
It has
Yep.
really impacted me as a stepmom.
That I understand that, and it's tough to go through it, but all these life experiences you've had must inform your ability to coach others. And I do wanna talk more about that because that is who you are, this coach who is helping thousands and thousands of women. So can you talk a little bit more about your coaching process and explain in case somebody who's listening, and I hope somebody will get in touch with you and be a part of what you're doing.
Thank you. I love coaching stepmoms, and I needed so much guidance and validation early in my stepmom years. I felt so alone. I felt so ashamed. I felt like I was struggling every step of the way. I often questioned, can I do this for the rest of my life? And struggled to see the light at the end of the tunnel. And I want to be the person who helps somebody get through that faster and with less pain than I did. So in 2020, I got certified to be a step parent coach. I also got certified as a life coach. So combining those certifications, I funnel it into my practice. I coach some individual stepmoms one on one. I really love coaching couples. There's something so magical about being able to communicate, translate, I guess would be the right word, but what this partner is saying to that partner in a way that they can hear it. I also really love having my stepmom's back and being like, well, listen, this isn't her problem. This is a stepmom problem. This is by the nature of step family dynamics. And you can just see it shift on their partner's face. I love coaching couples. I also have an incredible small group coaching program where stepmoms are in the same virtual Zoom room and we're validating each other and giving each other ideas. And it's just so magical. I know that sounds so silly, but it's so wonderful to see stepmoms transform. You can see
Mhm.
the weight lift off their shoulders. You can see the smile come back. You can see the twinkle in their eye when they talk about their partners in ways that they just couldn't when we start.
That's fabulous. And so needed. I am so glad that there are the few that there are, because there are not a lot of resources out there. I mean, that's why I started the podcast to help people in these situations and to share the stories and to create community. Because I know for me growing up, I don't think there was anything. And I so wish my parents and even myself would have had some kind of a community or resource to get through this tough stuff. And in fact, I read on your, website, I think, that 67% of second marriages end in divorce?
So the statistics vary. They will often say somewhere between 67 and 75%. It's
Wow.
it's a lot, and I don't know exactly how realistic those numbers are, and I think as more of these tools, resources are coming out, it might be coming down a little bit. I haven't seen a good number recently, but
Hopefully, you're
yeah,
helping it come down.
one marriage at a time.
Yeah. But do you think why do you think it's so high?
There's a number of reasons. My background is in sociology. That was one of my degrees in college, and statistically, once you've gone through a divorce once, you've kind of taken the mystery out of it. And so it's easier to say, I know what's on the other side. I know that the divorce isn't as scary as I'm making it up to be.
Mhm.
And so I would rather be single on the other side. So it's a little bit easier once you've done it once.
Mm.
But also, the real side for so many of us is that it's just harder being in a step family. You've got an ex in the picture, you've got stepchild loyalty bonds, you've got potentially court expenses, you've got tons of financial pressure in paying for child support, paying for children who aren't your own biologically. You're feeling unappreciated. You're having all of the other step family, stepmom struggles that at some point you're like, is this worth it? And some people don't get the help they need and learn the tools that they need in order to have that successful step family. So unfortunately there are quite a few that don't
Mhm.
make it to the other side.
Mm. Yeah, I understand, and that's what happened in my life too, so I with stepmothers, so I understand it. Didn't like it, but I understood it, and, I'm just curious. I wasn't going to initially ask you about this, but now it's prompting my thoughts. How do you deal differently with, a stepmother whose husband has been divorced versus a widower or a widow yeah, widower?
Mm.
Is there a difference in how you coach them?
Oh yes. And I don't like to stack stepmoms against each other, but I would argue that being coupled with a widower is one of the hardest situations for a stepmom because there's not this person who has control over your life in the tangible ways, but you're living up to the idea of
Mm,
someone. And, I said Krista's mom is her mom 100% of the time, and I stand by that. And the same is true for our stepmoms who are coupled with widowers. Their other parent is still their other parent, even if they're not alive anymore. And it's so, oh, goodness, you just have to be so cautious in how you approach some of these mothering things that you want to do because it's a landmine. And
mm,
and it is different, absolutely, for someone who has an ex in the picture, whether it's full time, it's part time, even if there's another parent out there who occasionally reaches out, you have completely different struggles
mm.
and triggers. than if it's somebody who is co-parenting with the idea of someone.
Mm, so interesting. And it's
There's
and I find that really interesting because I would have always thought it would be the other way around, but that makes a lot of sense.
there are so many different ways that a step family can look. And when
Yeah.
I first started this blog, I was totally ignorant and totally focused on how my family looked. I'm somebody who's coupled with a man who has an ex who's a woman, and she's in the picture and they share 50-50 custody. And, when I was younger, it was common for my dad to have every other weekend. So I knew about that custody situation. But being coupled with a widower, maybe I'm in a same sex relationship and that was also a same sex relationship. Maybe it wasn't. So maybe I'm co parenting with a man on the other side. There's just so many different ways that it can
Yeah.
look. And I try so hard to be inclusive in my practice that I recognize no two step families are alike. They don't need the same. You don't need me to tell you how I do it. You just need tools to learn how to find peace in your family because
Mhm.
that might be different from how I find peace. Well, no two step families are alike.
That's for sure, and there are so many different kinds of blended families. In fact, I'm planning to have, a guest on who has been a foster parent and has fostered tons of kids, and she has her own kids, and, it's not a step family, but it's another form of blending families, so that'll be interesting. But we're coming a little bit toward the end, and I do wanna have a chance to talk about Stepmom Con since that's coming up, and I'd love you to share about that. I'm an affiliate for that program, so I'll be sharing the link if anybody would like to sign up, and I really encourage you to do so. But tell us about that.
Yes. Oh, I love talking about Stepmom Con. This has been on my dream list for years. So it's a 3-day virtual event for stepmoms, and we are going all day, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Central Time, full-time job, where every single hour I'm interviewing a new expert. And we're talking about all sorts of topics from healing resentment to dealing with your triggers to what to do with a high conflict ex. We're talking with a family lawyer, just tons and tons and tons of content to help stepmoms get the tools they need to feel validated that they're not the only one out there struggling with this. They're not a bad stepmom for feeling this way.
Mm.
You'll have the ability to watch the interview and also chat live with the expert, which is such a fun part of all of it that that person is there to really answer any of your questions, take it a step farther. We have an extra, so it's free to attend. If you want to watch the sessions, you get sessions for 24 hours. But
And
if
it's
you
all
want to
virtual.
upgrade, all
It's
virtual.
all virtual. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. But if you want to upgrade, there's a few extra things that are really great. Every single day at noon central, you get Stepmom Connection Hour, where we're on Zoom and I'm putting you in little individual rooms where you can chat with a small group of
Oh,
stepmoms.
that's great.
Again, that validating, that connecting. You also get lifetime access to the videos, which is tremendous because it's a lot of videos to watch in 3 days. You will get an extra workbook so that you can take the lessons from what we talk about in the interview, really apply it to your life. I'm giving you 6 months of a podcast feed. If you obviously like to listen to podcasts, you can take those interviews on the go. It's not something you have to sit in front of a computer and watch. Plus, there's over $750 worth of speaker bonuses. We've got a live coaching call. I'm doing a live workshop for couples, and this is the only way that you'll be able to get a ticket to it. You get, a community program by Anita Inglis. We're doing lots of courses in there. My email series for childless stepmoms on Mother's Day is included in that package. And the price starts at $47. So it's a tremendous value for a really low price tag.
Mhm. That is incredible. That I'm so excited about that. I can't wait to attend that. I'm gonna definitely do that, and I will continue to promote it and encourage people to take advantage because it sounds like, for $47, that's pretty amazing. So,
There's
thank you for sharing, and I'll continue to put it out there, like I said, and before we wrap up, is there anything else and any other pearls of wisdom you can put out there? Because you have a lot to share with our listeners.
I know I could share so much. I think I just want to share that wherever you are on your stepmom journey right now, it is not wrong. And you are not wrong for how you feel, but you deserve a life of peace. And I will do whatever I can to help you achieve it. Please follow me on social. Join us at Stepmom Con, whatever I can do to support you. I don't want to see another stepmom struggle alone.
That's great. Thank you. And thank you for what you're contributing to this special, specific world. And I'm glad you could be here. I know you're super busy, but thanks again.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I have the best job on the planet.
Yeah, you do. I do too, actually. So, all right. Take care.